G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Dara Rosenbaum from Rosenbaum and Taylor, based in New York, United States. Thanks for your time today, Dara.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with how we know each other. We both use the Podmatch platform, getting a lot of guests from that at the moment. Yeah, so thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
So I have a small business law firm in New York, and we make money by serving entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, mid-sized small businesses, helping them form, helping them grow, doing their contracts. So we do transactional work, meaning the paperwork, agreements, and contracts and the like. We also handle litigation, so lawsuits, business disputes, those kinds of things.
How did you start out?
Decided kind of early in high school I want to be a lawyer. So started off working for another firm, working for a really, really small firm pre 9/11. Lost my job after 9/11 because they suffered financially. Ended up sort of a lot of happenstance working with a guy named Scott Taylor, who is now the tailor to my Rosenbaum and Taylor. Scott hired me about 22 years ago now, roughly 20 years ago. I worked for him. He was my boss for almost 10 years. And we spent a lot of time joking about politics of the firm and, things that were going not quite the way we would have done them at a much larger firm. We used to kid around. This was Rosenbaum and Taylor. This wouldn't be happening. And Christmas of 2010, we started saying, you know what, maybe this is time to make a Rosenbaum and Taylor. So got the wheels rolling, and 11 years later, here we are.
Fantastic. And in 2010, when you started, how old were you then when you decided to make the jump into small business yourself?
I would have been 45-ish.
Yep.
35, I'm sorry. I made myself a little 35.
Yeah. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 11 or 12 years?
Yeah, so Scott and I started with just the two of us, literally doing all the everything, answering the calls, doing the scheduling, photocopying, doing all the assembling motions and mailing them. We now have 3 support staff and 4 other attorneys who work with us, so we've grown quite nicely. Not looking to be huge, but looking to be a little bit bigger than we are probably. But it's been nice to bring on some help because we get nostalgic for those early days sometimes, but it's nice to have some help.
That's great. Growing from 2 to 9. And what ambitions do you have to build the team to?
I could see being maybe 10 attorneys from the 6 we have now. Yeah. So I think that's a good size. I like the family size, kind of the family style of it. I like knowing what everybody's doing. I like being able to work on projects with everybody so that we don't get so large, we kind of lose touch with each other.
Yep. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I think probably the first time I walked into a courtroom, and in New York, at least, these courtrooms are very, very crowded. So there's sort of this, I call it the Marco Polo process. Someone's calling out the name of the case or trying to find their adversary. So they're calling out names. And I had spent, years looking for my adversary and waiting for somebody to call out the name of the firm that I worked for. And somebody yelled, Rosenbaum and Taylor. And I went, oh, that's us. So it was like, oh, I have a firm. This is, this is real. This has happened.
What does success look like to you?
Success looks like freedom, I think. I think having just the opportunity to do things the way I want to, spending time with my family and friends the way that I want to, taking advantage and, travel, doing things in life that I want to do, and having a really fulfilling career that is supporting all that.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
I would say learn marketing. So many people are going to hire somebody, have a consultant come in, do it. I like the idea, and I've done it myself. I like the idea of understanding at least what I think needs to be done. And we made some mistakes early on. And we had somebody else writing our website. And as I looked at some things on the website going, oh my goodness, no, this we can't write. No, we don't, this doesn't look right. This isn't accurate. This isn't in my voice. This is not catered to our clients. So I think that me being hands-on with the marketing in the beginning, at least, was very helpful because at least I knew kind of what direction I wanted to take, and I was better able to supervise the people who we then hired to do some of that work.
And how did you fund the business?
We were very, very lucky. So Scott and I were working together at another firm, and because of the way that firm was organized, we were able to take all of our clients and our matters and our cases with us. So, and we got some great advice early on. They said, you know what, if you're building this firm, build it like an old grandma running a candy store. So we did it as inexpensively as possible. We got everything we needed to get done, but not extravagantly. So we each put in, I would say maybe 10 or 15,000 just to kind of get computers and first last month's rent and things like that. But got that back very quickly. So we were very fortunate to kind of bring the cases and matters with us. So on Friday, we walked out the door of the other firm, and on Monday, we were able to walk into our own firm, billing out our clients on our own cases.
That's rare and ironic, isn't it? You wouldn't find
very, 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 very rare, very,
many...
very rare, and very, very lucky. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
Is it that just down? Would you put that down to just having a good relationship with that firm, or was it something an area that they wanted to get out of, or how do you think that came about?
No, it was real. It was really their structure. It was, I mean, they had, call it a round number of 16 partners at the time, and every partner had a team. So the team sort of worked on the cases and had their own clients and their own matters. And for the most part, we traveled around the country telling people we were leaving and asking them if they'd like to come with us and hoping that they would. They also, we don't know anyone else at the firm. So of course we're coming with you. We don't care what firm you're at. We're going to work with you. So, I think it was just, we sort of lifted it out very naturally. There was not that we didn't have to really, we didn't really have to take anything from anyone. It was sort of ours to begin with. So
yep.
We were very fortunate that everybody came with us, but the structure kind of allowed for that to happen, I think.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was a lawyer long before I was a business owner. So yeah, this would definitely be my choice.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
I would say a couple of things that I can share. We made some mistakes early on with sort of, I call it shiny object syndrome. So I would get, approached, or I would find something, or somebody would mention a system or a software or a consultant or a process that I needed. And it was like, oh, I didn't know I needed that, but that sounds great. Let's go. We can go ahead and do that. And there were times when I was signing up and purchasing things that we didn't need at all. And then we were signing up and purchasing things that even if we did need them, that was probably not the right one to select. So I was not as discerning about either, I was just diving in with both feet going like, oh, that sounds like a problem to solve. That sounds like a good idea. So I'm probably just, the salesperson's dream when it comes to that, but I've gotten a lot more savvy about it. And I think the other thing that we've kind of struggled with a little bit is just we knew how to be lawyers when we started this. They don't teach business in law school. That's the business, the building across the hall or go across the street where I was. So, the idea that, for the first years, it wasn't just that I was a lawyer with our own firm. I was running a law firm. I was running a business. And it probably took me a few years to realize that I was running a business. And I think that I see that with a lot of my clients too. It's like, I'm an architect. Like, well, yes, but you have your own firm. So you're an architect and a business owner. Or I'm a landscaper. Well, you're a landscaper and a business owner, or a photographer and a business owner. So I think that wearing those two hats and kind of figuring out how they will fit on your head, it's something that I didn't do fast enough. I would have liked to figure that out faster.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I think the marketing and the advertising. And like I said, we were very fortunate. We brought all of our clients and matters with us. We didn't advertise. We never marketed. We never advertised. When we started thinking about maybe shifting the focus of the firm a little bit and taking on some other matters, we're like, what happens if you go out there and advertise? What happens if you go out there and do some marketing or do some networking? Because we never had. And because we sort of were in that place for, 8 or 9 years where we didn't even bother, and thankfully, very luckily didn't have to, it was something I really had to teach myself. And, in some respects, I really just had to be the one driving it for the firm. My business partner is 19 years older than I am. So, I had to teach him how to do word processing when we first started, because he was from the generation that dictated everything and had a secretary transcribing it. So, it's been me sort of driving that, like, hey, we need to get into social media. We need to do some video. He doesn't know what SEO was, all these things that I've had to kind of learn and show him the importance of. So it's been a pretty steep learning curve for me, but one I've actually kind of started to enjoy.
And where did you go to improve your knowledge around all that? Was it courses, coaches, books, podcasts on marketing?
Coaches and other people. It's another thing that I think I didn't learn early enough was that so few of us are doing something that nobody's ever done before. I mean, we may be making a product or offering a service that has some unique qualities to it, but we're running a business like everybody else has done before us. Nobody's going to knock on your door and say like, hey, I heard you needed to know how to do marketing, or hey, I heard you needed a graphic designer, or hey, you don't know where to get your copier from. But if you just ask, people are so willing to give you information. So I started asking people like, hey, hey, when you were growing your firm, and whether it was a law firm or some other kind of business, when you were growing your business, what'd you do? How'd you learn how to do it? How did you kind of dip your toe into marketing, SEO, advertising, all those kinds of things? And how did you find your ideal client? So I asked lots of questions.
Yeah.
But I think it started with really just, some great mentors and just asking around the people who had done it, kind of right in the same age of a business as I had, or the same progress of business as I had, and also people who were, kind of in industries, maybe they were a little bit ahead of me.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
We have had struggles on the personnel end. I tend to be very optimistic when I see a resume or when I meet somebody, and I think I tend to project onto somebody all the wonderful qualities that I hope that they're going to have when they come in and they work for us. We have had some, they're humorous to look back on now, but at the time they were difficult lessons to learn. I think that just the growth, obviously growth requires people.
Yep.
And once you get the right people in place, it's fantastic, and you want to keep them forever, and you just want to watch them grow with you. But when you make the mistake, I think somebody told me later that I should be, hire slow, fire fast. Yep. And I think that's probably pretty good advice, at least for me.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love the challenge of it, and I love the agility it requires. So I love learning new things. I love being small enough that we can take on new challenges. There's a client who comes in with something that we really weren't thinking was really something that we were going to take on. Scott and I can sit down and go like, no, this is something we can do. Let's talk about doing this. We can get into new areas of law that we're interested in. We can serve the clients in a way that, that is the way we want to. So I love growing the business the way that I want to. I love being the kind of firm that I want to have, and having that agility to just, to change, and to, like I said, a few years ago, figuring out how to go out and get new clients, which we never bothered to do.
Mm-hmm. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I would say, like, again, I think that's that view of business owner. And I think that many people who are, whether it's, and I see it all the time with my clients, someone's got a side hustle and they're now looking to leave their full-time job and pursue that full-time. Or somebody has, somebody's returning to the workforce and is going to start their own business. Somebody has a great idea and they're going to start selling a product. Somebody's going to leave wherever they're providing their service and they're going to start doing it on their own. I think that mindset shift where it's, you need to be making the decisions for not just for the practice or for the field or providing the service or the good, but to actually to being a business. And I think that mindset shift for me was something that I really, once I started getting around mentors and getting around other entrepreneurs who were doing something either similar or at a similar point in their path, I started realizing it was like, I need to treat this much more like a business rather than the place that I practice law.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Good time management. I think good time management and, I think time management and boundary setting, I think, are probably two things that go together. I think that, there are tons of things that small business owners have to do. And, when I first started, I've actually joined a Vistage group, which is an international organization that does the CEO advisory work, peer CEO advisory work. And when I first started, I said, well, I do everything. I pretty much do everything at the firm. I order the pencils. And someone said, well, that's a metaphor. I'm like, no, it's not. I actually order the pencils. I'm like, because they have to get done. I'm like, so at the end of the like, well, Dara, so you're crossing ordered pencils off your to-do list, but that's not what you need to be doing to drive the business forward.
Yeah.
So I think that, really just, kind of setting the boundaries around what things that, an owner should be working on or shouldn't be working on, and then managing that time effectively to focus on the things that are going to move the needle as opposed to just scratching things off the to-do list.
Yeah. Do you love talking small business growth with other owners? We have a vibrant online community from many industries around the world. Plus, we regularly add new tools and resources for community members and host 2 webinars a month to help you grow your small business. growsmallbusiness.com. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Sure. Like I said, I think we've added some wonderful people, and we have taken some chances on people who I think one of the things that Scott and I say pretty often is you can't teach smart.
Mm.
You can't teach smart. You can't teach motivated. You can't teach curious. You can't teach responsible. So I've learned to start looking for the characteristics of the people that I want. And then, I pretty much, for the most part, can teach them the job.
Yeah.
So whether it's support staff, it's an associate, it's another attorney, they have to fit in, culturally in terms of, who we are as a firm and how we interact with each other. And they have to want to do the job. They have to want to do the job well, and they have to want to serve our clients. And then beyond that, the specific skills required for the job, generally, as long as they have all those base skills, they can learn.
Yeah.
I think the mistakes that I made were people I was just either too optimistic about, or people who, it's sort of a Maya Angelou quote: when somebody tells you who they, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So if somebody comes in with a poor attitude, even if they were great during the interview process, you got to keep a really close eye on that. And if that attitude doesn't improve, that person's not the right person. If you need attention to detail in the job, which is something that we need at our place, and somebody is just giving you things with, the dates wrong, misspellings, grammatical errors, that's something that just, we have tolerated for too long with certain people, and waited too long to move on from that. So I think that, recognize when you've done a great job and made a great hire, and invest in those people, help them grow, nurture their personal growth, their professional growth, because it's going to come back to you, tenfold in terms of what they're going to contribute to the business. But on the other side, if you've got somebody who isn't contributing, who's just a drain on your resources, drain on your time, not contributing what you need them to contribute, it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, the attention to detail needed in the role. Do you put a test project in as part of your recruitment process to help you identify those ones that aren't that great attention to detail early on before you even offer them a job?
I don't know. Maybe I should. One of the things that we do during the interview process, depending on the role, obviously, is to ask questions about how somebody handled something, or how they approach their work, how they go about solving something, addressing an issue that they've never handled before. What kind of self motivation they have, what kind of review process they go into before they turn in work. So there are questions that we ask. We've never put together like a test process, but we're in New York, well, in state. So this contract, we're not bound to anybody for any period of time. It's as long as they want to stay, that mutual agreement. So I guess I could put it to place, but the test is sort of, I guess it's on the just. And I think that if we have somebody home with something to work on, they might do a lot better job than they're going to do when they're in my office, because they know it's an interview and they know that they've got to prove themselves. And I hope that they have that same motivation and attention to detail when they're in the office, but we sort of do it more of as an on-the-job thing.
Yeah, I've heard companies adding it in as part of their recruitment process. You give them a test project even before you interview them, because something like half of people won't even submit the test project.
Mm-hmm.
A quarter will miss the deadline. You don't want them. And then you've got that final quarter to assess the quality of their work. It just helps you filter out, some really simple tests. And you can throw grammatical errors in there and see if they pick them up. Those ones will obviously then really stand out. They say, by the way, I noticed these 3 errors in the test project brief.
Right. That I like. I like that a lot, and I like the idea of it weeding out people who can't even be bothered.
Yes.
People. I think one of the things that we've noticed, and I've been in business 11 years or so, and it seems to have gotten more pervasive, where it's just so easy to apply online.
Yeah.
So your resume is online. You just click apply, and then you wait to see what comes in. So sometimes there are people clearly applying for jobs they don't even want.
That's right.
So So I may be responding to somebody saying, "Hey, great, we're really interested in you. Thank you so much for applying for the job," and I never hear back from them. Yep. So you're right. I think that the idea of having that test project in there may weed out the people who weren't very interested in the first place, or can't be bothered, to submit it on time. Yeah, I like that idea.
Another way to filter out those tire kickers, or just people just spraying for jobs, is ask them for a cover letter and say, please tell us these 3 things in that cover letter, because if you get a standard cover letter that's been cut and paste, that they're not serious, they're not passionate, they haven't done any research on you, and they're going to cut them. Yeah.
One of the things I ask when I interview, almost one of my first questions is always, what, if anything, do you know about me or about the firm?
Absolutely. I ask that question too, because if someone hasn't gone to the effort to at least look at our website, they're not serious about this job.
Great. And what's very interesting though is that, especially, I mean, I've been doing interviews over Zoom recently, obviously. So, you don't have to memorize anything. Put a post-it note next to the computer with the notes about who you're talking to. I had 2 weeks ago, I interviewed for an associate attorney position. And I said, what, if anything, do you know about the firm or about me? And she said, honestly, I've been looking at so many different firms. I don't remember which one you are.
Right.
I was trying to figure out how. I could have ended the interview right there. There was no way I was going to hire someone like that.
No.
I mean, it couldn't even be bothered to, put a post-it note next to the camera. I wouldn't have had any idea she didn't know who I am if she just had notes. I mean, that's fine. I wasn't expecting her to memorize my bio or the firm CV, but show a little bit of interest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, even at the moment, the labour market in most places around the world are in the employees' favour. There's a lot of unemployment's quite low, but even if they've got the potential employee's got the power in the negotiation or the situation, I think it's myopic if they don't say to themselves, I want a kick-ass job. I want to work for a great firm, a great manager. And so they should invest that time researching the best ones out there and prepare.
And for me, the right employee is going to feel uncomfortable getting onto it completely unprepared.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't just, hop on, let the camera turn on and go like, okay, so who are you? You should at least have some context for it. And don't waste your time. If you're talking to somebody, if you've scheduled an interview with somebody, realize this isn't the place for you for whatever reason, then don't go through with it. So I think it just minimal amount of preparation really does go a long way.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think just, honoring the individuals. I mean, you realize and I think it's changed in the past couple of years. It's gotten so much better, but I think people need to recognize that, yes, they're your employees, or they're your coworkers, or they're your managers, but they've got rich lives beyond your walls. So they've got children, they've got elderly parents, they've got pets, they have obligations. There's, or there's happy things going on. They're going on vacation, they've got a honeymoon, they're planning a wedding, they're adopting a child, whatever it is going on really informs who they are in the workplace. And I think the more you understand that and the more you respect that, the better relationship you have with your employees and with your managers and with your co-owners. Because I think that, and a lot of people now are looking for this flexibility of, can I work from home? Can I make my own schedule? Can I set my own hours? And I think that within the bounds of whatever works in your business, it's something at least to consider. Yeah. Because you don't want to necessarily eliminate from a list of prospective employees anybody who wants an accommodation or a flexibility. So, we've certainly had to change. I mean, I think that, law is one of those, we're kind of dinosaurs in some respects. I mean, I think we're probably one of the few professions on earth where everybody still wears suits on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But we too, at least in the courthouse, not in my office. So I think, we've had to get comfortable with people wanting to work from home, or people wanting to work different hours, or people needing to come and go because they have childcare issues or issues with aging parents, or they have other obligations. There are things that that's just a reality. And I think that if the communication is good and you trust the people, you're better off just knowing that, because otherwise either the employment isn't going to work out, or people are going to be doing things behind your back that you don't know about. So for the purpose, just in terms of productivity, and in terms of honesty and openness in the workplace, just have those open conversations about who people are, what they need, what they're looking for, what their goals are, what their needs are. There are people who want flexibility. There are people who, don't really care about flexibility. They want more money, or vice versa. There are people who are like, I don't really care about the flexibility and vacation. I care about vacation time, or I care about health insurance. So I think you just need to get to know the people who are working around you so you can better help them help you.
Tell the audience how you've handled balance.
I became a mom 3.5 years ago. So that was an additional thing to throw onto the scale of balancing things. My daughter's just turned 3 in May. And I think that I have had to get much more intentional about my schedule and about what I spend time on, because when before I got married, before I had my daughter, I could have my laptop open, all my waking hours in front of the TV while I was on the treadmill, while I was sitting and having breakfast, and I could answer emails and I could work on things and get a little bit done here, a little bit done there. And that felt productive to me. And I think that now, to me, productive is getting my work done during, generally normal business hours, with some exceptions, obviously, and then just being able to spend time with my family. So I think that I've had to become a lot more intentional and a lot more, again, back to time management and boundaries. So I think that, managing my time better and setting boundaries around, a client wants to have a call at 9 p.m. my time, on a rare occasion, I'll do it if there's something pressing or there's a reason that it has to be that. But if the client just feels like that's the time when they're more productive, I have to say that, that's my family time.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself? Obviously a shit ton in the legal sense, but any other professional development outside of the, your technical skills?
I love mastermind groups. I've been a part now of 2 in the last year. And just the being around, I mean, I thrive around people I consider to be really smart. And people who have, who are open about the struggles that they've had in their businesses, open about their successes. One of the things I always say is I can learn, as much, if not more, from the way somebody would have done something differently than from the great job that they did or the success that they had. So being around people who are, where the purpose of the group is to share those things, is to share mindset issues, to share values, to share tips and tricks about how to handle things, or just even to share some challenges of, hey, I'm having a really rough week. Associate, number 2 left, and I'm having a hard time replacing that person. Or, hey, we're coming up on the holidays and I'm trying to figure out how to balance all this and get everything done while trying a case and getting ready for Thanksgiving in the US. So I think, I've invested a lot of time, I think, and money in those types of things to get those kind of mentors, whether they're peer mentors or they're, just, coaches of some type, because I think they bring so much value to who I am personally and who I am professionally.
Yeah, totally. Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I don't have a formal one, but like I said, I'm a member of Vistage, and our Vistage group is sort of broken off into informal boards of advisors. So, I'm obviously a lawyer, and they've kind of created like a professional services group. So within my group, my little board of advisors, there's another attorney, there's a veterinarian, there's an engineer. We're sort of the professional services, an architect. And we treat each other like we're investors or advisors in the business in a formal way, although it's obviously informal. And we share with each other financial data. We share with each other human resources challenges, technology challenges, all kinds of things. So we know each other's businesses very intimately, and we can go to each other with questions like, for example, I'm working on a new hire, and I've gone to that group with how I'm thinking about compensation, how I'm thinking about strategy, how I'm thinking about what direction it's going to be for the firm. And they've been just absolutely invaluable to me in terms of giving me advice on what I'm thinking about doing and what maybe I should be thinking about not doing.
All right, Dara, one of our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think surrounding yourself with the right people. I am incredibly lucky with my business partner. We've been working together now for over 20 years, and people don't believe it, but we have yet to have a disagreement. We just happen to be very, very similar, very, very like-minded. I've seen, just as a business attorney, I've seen too many people who form business partnerships and ownership groups over drinks or on the back of a napkin during brunch. And, they haven't really fully well thought out who they're choosing. So I think one of the things is just surrounding yourself with the right people. Scott is fantastic. And then finding the right people as we grow has been not as easy as I thought it was going to be, but once you get the right people in place, it's really wonderful.
Yeah, it's something I actually wrote about last week. On Fridays, I send a short weekly leadership email to small business owners.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was in the Adelaide Hills here in Australia and South Australia a couple of weeks ago in the car going out to a mate's distillery to do a whiskey tasting on Monday morning, which was very tough. And we're talking in the car. This business friend of mine and I were talking in the car, and he'd taken on this business partner 5 or 6 years earlier. And he hadn't talked to me about this guy before he'd actually, signed the paperwork. And I said, I don't think you've done enough due diligence on this guy. He's an asshole. And he's very destructive. I've worked with him. I've, know him quite well. Anyway, he said, no, I've done my due diligence, background check. Anyway, for about an hour in the car, he was on the phone to his lawyer. This is 5 or 6 years after the guy had bought in half the business, trying to get the guy out. So, 3 senior quit because of this arsehole business partner. It's so important. And in that email, I did some research. 70% of business partnerships fail. 70%.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think they fail for lots of reasons. Obviously, it's not just necessarily, it's not just personality. Sometimes it's obviously related to the business itself. But I think, you're going in without having your eyes wide open and without selecting the right partner in the first place or the right co-owner in the first place, you're starting at a deficit.
Yep.
Because then you don't really have a chance to weather those things, to weather those coming regardless, because you already have that kind of unsteady, that unsteady foundation.
Absolutely. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
So one of my mastermind groups had a guy named Mark J. Silverman who came to speak to us, and he wrote a book called Only Tens. I think it might be Only Tens 2.0 by now. But he basically talks about, managing your to-do list. And I think it's really spoke to me, because it's not just being busy, in the beginning of the book is all these objections as to why people can't, think of things this way. Well, I'm to this and I'm to that. And every one of the objections, oh yeah, that's me. That's why I can't use this. I can't use this mindset and this approach to time management. I can't do that. I'm too important. I have too many other things to do. I have too many demands on my time. And his focus is really just, the things that are tens that should be on your list, and the twos and threes don't even make the list. Somebody else, either they don't get done at all, or they don't get done by you. But focus on those things that are going to move the needle. Focus on those things that maybe, you could spend your afternoon every day, all day, all week long, picking off twos, threes, and fours off of your list and feeling like you accomplished all kinds of things. But if you're not doing the things that are going to be important for the growth and the profit of the business, then you're really accomplishing what you need to.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
There's a podcast called Business Minds Coffee Chat by a business coach named Jay Shear.
Sorry, what's the name of it? What's the name of it?
It's called Business Minds Coffee Chat.
Yep. And
in addition to the fact that Jay has the greatest voice for podcasting I've ever heard, clearly is an amazing voice for radio. Amazing business minds. I guess that's the only way to describe it. Share just really, and I come away from every one of the episodes that I listen to with some actionable advice or some kind of aha moment about something that I could be doing differently, or a way I could be thinking about something differently. And from my perspective, I can't ask for more than that from a podcast or from a resource.
Yep. Great. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
I would say community, I guess. I'm not sure that's a tool.
Yeah.
But I think that's been really big for me. I think I had that Superman complex for too long, whereas like I can do it myself. I can figure it out. I can read. I can Google. I can YouTube. I can figure it out myself. And I think that having people around you who can A, call you out when you're doing it wrong, B, prevent you from making mistakes, and share with you, what they've done and what they're thinking about doing, and share with you their resources. It's such a shortcut, because you're not going to read every book. You're not going to listen to every podcast. You're not going to absorb every piece of information. But when you start surrounding yourself with a great community of people who are like-minded in that respect, you're going to just pick up those things from being around them, and you're going to watch the things that they do with the information that they have. And it's really valuable to have that around you.
Final and my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it.
Great. Yeah. Thanks very much for your time today, Dara. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. I did too. Absolutely.
And I think the audience get a lot of value out of what you shared with us. Great growth, 2 to 9 full-time equivalents over now 12 years. You obviously got the business partnership right out of the gate, which is so important. And congratulations on your growth so far.
Thank you very much.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.